In a move that has stunned global markets, India and the United States have officially declared a ceasefire in their trade tensions. On February 2, 2026, both nations announced a landmark trade accord that marks a massive shift in the geopolitical and economic landscape. This wasn't an easy win. It comes after a year of intense, transactional negotiations focused on two main pillars: slashing tariffs and reshaping the world's energy map. Today, we're breaking down the fine print of this deal: who wins, who loses, and why some are calling it the grandmother of all deals, while others are sounding the alarm. Let's look at the numbers because they are staggering. The US has slashed the effective tariff on Indian goods from a peak of 50% down to just 18%. This includes the immediate removal of that 25% punitive levy imposed back in 2025, which had been a massive thorn in India's side. But what did India give up in return? The commitments are significant. First, there's a massive energy shift. India has reportedly agreed to significantly reduce or even halt purchases of Russian crude oil. Instead, India will pivot its energy strategy toward the US and potentially Venezuela. Furthermore, India has committed to a Buy American plan, promising to purchase up to $500 billion in US energy, coal, tech, and agricultural products. This deal gives India a distinct advantage over its neighbors. At an 18% tariff rate, India now faces more favorable terms in the US market than its regional rivals. To put that in perspective, Vietnam and Bangladesh are sitting at 20%, while China is facing a steep 30% to 35% tariff. The US claims this is a path towards zero tariffs and the removal of non-tariff barriers for American goods, specifically in tech and agriculture, like tree nuts, cotton, and soybean oil. The markets reacted instantly. On February 3, 2026, the Sensex and Nifty saw a massive rally, surging between 3% and 5%. Specific sectors are celebrating. Textiles and leather. These labor-intensive sectors are getting a massive boost as their largest export market becomes much cheaper to access. Solar energy, Indian-made solar cells and modules, are now far more cost-competitive. Pharmaceuticals, there is a revival in orders, though some experts are nervous about future intellectual property rights, IPR, alignment. In the steel sector, while tariffs remain largely unchanged, a new collaboration on coking coal is providing much-needed resource security. While industry leaders like the Association of Indian Medical Devices call this a game-changer for the China Plus One strategy, not everyone is cheering. The political opposition in India, including the Congress Party, AAP and TMC, has launched a fierce attack. They're calling it an unequal deal and even a capitulation of sovereignty. A major point of contention is the lack of transparency. Critics point out that President Trump announced the deal on social media before any statement was made to the Indian parliament. They also highlight a lack of reciprocity. India is moving towards zero tariffs for the US, while the US still maintains an 18% tax on Indian goods. The biggest red line is agriculture. Opening India's dairy and poultry sectors to subsidized US products could trigger massive domestic protests. The State Bank of India warned that opening the dairy market could lead to an annual loss of roughly $12.5 billion for Indian farmers, potentially dropping milk prices by 15%. There are also cultural and political anxieties regarding genetically modified, GM, crops and meat-fed dairy products. And don't forget energy. Moving away from discounted Russian oil could lead to a spike in domestic fuel prices and near-term inflation. As of now, the fine print is still being finalized by negotiating teams. We're left with some major unanswered questions. Is that $500 billion purchase target a binding contract, or just an aspiration? When exactly will India's tariffs hit zero? And what is the hard deadline for exiting Russian oil? This deal could be the strategic turning point. India needs to dominate the global market, or it could be a significant challenge to its Atmanirbhar Bharat goals of self-reliance.